All right. Well, thank you so much, Zazie, for waking up early and taking the time to chat about systems Mel, which is amazing. So, just for context, to tell everybody where you are and what time in the morning it is.
Yeah. Sure. So I'm in Copenhagen. I'm actually joining this call from the basement of an old courthouse. So where our meeting rooms are the old cells, and behind us we actually have a working prison. So this is classic Copenhagen where life comes together, which I love. And it's 8:05 in the morning, so it's not too early actually. Yeah, that's it. And my name's Zazie, and I might know some of you because I left Australia 6 years ago and used to work for Clear Horizon.
Yes, so Zazzy's well in with Just Start and Co. And so that's how we know each other. And I said, oh, can you tell us about? So what I want to talk about a bit is the
Yeah,
360 Systems Guide. Now, there is sort of a more formal thing on the sandbox announcing it and stuff, but I just
yeah,
wanted to chat to you. Basically, can you let folks know who it is if they didn't have the chance to click on the link, like what it
yeah,
is, but also like what do you like about it? What's fun about it
yeah.
for you?
Sure, sure. So what it is it's doing something quite specific, and I think it's important to stress this because systems mel, if we want to call the field that, so what I would more generally call systems and complexity informed monitoring, evaluation, and learning, is a very broad field, right? And it's an evolving field, and it's still kind of working out what it is, how we all kind of interact, etc. And so the Mel 360 Systems Mel guide is doing something quite specific. It's it's aiming to bring people that are in more in the what I would call the programmatic or the dominant Mel space into Systems Mel, right? And so we're not trying to make them like give up programmatic Mel. We're trying to encourage people and to make it really easy for people to pick up some systems Mel and integrate that into their existing Mel. And that's because most of us work in dominant systems, right? So you can't, systems mel really challenges the assumptions in the dominant system. So it's really hard to just do systems mel, right? So the idea is that if we can make something that's a public good, so this is all public good work, it's freely accessible to everyone, and make it bite-sized so that we tell them a little bit about, what this thing is, but also say, hey, start with this tool or maybe this principle or etc. Then they can slowly, safely, if you like, we call them like low-hanging fruit, like safe, or
As
low,
opposed
what
to
is it? Low,
gateway drug.
yeah, exactly. Like the low risk experiments that you can do. And then you get some exposure and get to kind of understand what the practice is like, and then maybe you incorporate more and more, and who knows, over time you might get something that's much more kind of integrated right across the two. So that's the intention. What I love about it is that that it's not pretending to be everything to everyone, right? That it is really about helping people enter the space and growing this space. Like we want everyone to be at least knowledgeable of it, and if appropriate, doing a little bit of it, right? So they can learn more about their work from a systems and complexity lens.
Oh, that's fantastic. And here, what I'm going to do is just share screen.
Mm,
And I'm not certain if that will play on the recording, but here's hoping it is. If it doesn't,
yeah,
I'm on 360systemsguide.com. And
yeah,
so one of the things I was doing earlier today, right? I was meeting with a not-for-profit and I had some folks and I would talk to them about this bridging thing, some
yeah,
folks on my team. And I was like, well, we want to work on a theory of change, but it's a really systemsy type thing that we're doing. And so
yeah,
we were able to sort of go in here and look
yeah,
down, and there's actually one that was just, not how to do.
yeah,
Here we go, systems informed theory change.
yeah,
And what we ended up landing on, and it was the tiniest little thing, was the language piece right at the back here, right? And it
yeah,
just talked about like so instead of talking about outcomes, just reframing that as systemic shifts instead of activities and outputs, looking at sphere of control. And so all we did with this
yeah,
not-for-profit client is simply shift just a few of those things because we're gearing up for a QMU systems map and a causal pathway analysis. And this is just
yeah,
starting the journey. And we actually found that that went really well. Just it was super helpful, especially for, as you said, some of the if
Yeah,
evaluation is a drug, the programmatic addicts that we are,
yeah,
to be able to slip into a slightly different gateway drug here and use one tiny thing. So definitely found it to be very useful. And
yeah.
admittedly, I did not start at number one. Well, I got to number
No,
one and went, oh god, we have to stop there. Like that's already enough. But I did love the way that it was really sketched out for everyone. And
yeah.
I could go on and on, but I just thought I'd.
And no, but that's a really good example because that's exactly what we hope will happen. And we when we would, so this is quite a long journey, and as we're developing it, we're engaging with people that are very much in the programmatic space, right? And who are challenged by this. And so it's like how, so again and again testing with them, like what else do you need for this to make sense, right? So it's great. I'm really glad that
No,
you
it's
were able
amazing, and it's
to
just
get
one
advice.
example,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's I've been bite-sized feeding, and in every meeting, I just sort of have a personal goal of like, oh, how can
Yeah,
I kick in a bit more systems change, right? Um,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
loved, by the way, in that sandbox late night coffee
yeah.
equation, the idea of the spiral. Do you think,
Mm,
could you break that down? Because folks will probably see it when they
yeah,
watch, but tell us more about the spiral.
yeah. And so the core idea behind the spiral is that systems mel work. You don't, it's not like old programmatic mel where, you do, in your planning phase, you were able to do, a really clear theory of change or program logic or whatever you called it, a mel plan. And then, you kind of go, okay, we know what we're doing for mel basically over the next 3 years. Like the idea is that, well, there's so much we don't know. So let's not pretend that we do. Let's start somewhere and let's, over time, using different techniques, continue to grow our understanding through our MEL of the system, etc., but also of our MEL. So what we might need to do next, right? And so I think this is really interesting because it really challenges some of our ideas around rigor, right? So is rigor even the right word to be using in this space? How do we redefine that, right? Because you're starting out and
Mm.
some of the stuff you're doing initially is very light touch, but uh, we're not saying that systems val is evidence light. On the contrary, it's not evidence light, but it's a very different approach because it's the evidence is something that you build over time as you better understand the system and therefore what information you might need to make sense and understand right how your intervention or project is going.
No,
So
that's great. Some
yeah,
of our guys tried out the pivot metrics that came on another day and
yeah,
just like
yeah.
played in the sandbox with that for a bit.
Mm.
And realized like it's almost like it's one of those things where the a combination of the devil is in the detail, but it's fun to
Yes.
play. Like it's just wicked fun to play. So,
And don't you think, I mean, I think one of the like myths we need to bust as well in this space is that there's a whole lot of great theory and there's a whole lot of even great methodologies that are written up. But ultimately, what we're all having to do is we're having to adjust and adapt them to the context in which we work, right? So even with the pivot metrics, and one of the things that I really loved about that session is they were so open about, look, we haven't worked it all out. We're still working things out, but this is what we're learning as we're practicing. And it's the same with, methodological bricolage. Like one of the things they're doing, which is really great, is that they are kind of tackling the rigor piece and going, okay, what does it mean in this space? And giving a process, again, that you can start to apply to better engage with your rigor, right? And I think that's where the strength is it's play, as you said, but it's serious play as well, right? It's like we're being very deliberate, we're being very reflective, we're capturing things, and we're trying constantly to challenge ourselves to produce better intelligence, basically, right? That's more useful to people. Yeah.
no, absolutely. And I think some of the sophistication that I've encountered in just working with like whether it's causal pathway analysis,
Yeah.
Bayesian mixed methods, Bayesian adaptive trial, like you have to think more.
Yeah.
But one of the trickiest things for a lot of people is translating that thinking to funders who still may have, as you would call it, like the old school
Yeah.
programmatic approach. I was wondering, do you have any tips, advice, like
Absolutely.
how? Yeah.
You know, the thing I find that happens that's super interesting is that, like, at times, So it depends, there's different types of funders, right? There's public funders, there's philanthropic funders, there's, all sorts of different impact investing funds. Like there's lots of different funders that are all playing in this space. And what I find is that it's kind of two steps forwards, one step back all the time. So you have spaces that open up, and then they kind of retract back. So you often see like you go, oh, this looks really interesting. They've got working principles that inform their work, etc. But then you kind of join, you go, well, it's not that straightforward. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of having to communicate to the board and help the board see, where we're going and why we're doing this kind of work. And to be honest, that's really not my expertise, because I'm not often in that space. But I do agree it's a huge, huge challenge. And I don't think there's a simple answer. I think most of this work, even for practitioners, when you come into this space, like some people are now able to go straight into systems metal a lot more, right? But I think, Squirrel, for you and I, like we've kind of come from more kind of traditional mel, right? And then you've gone on the journey to take on systems mel, and it is an existential journey, right? Like I remember just going, who am I? What is evaluation? What?
Who am I? How am I a part of this system? Oh no! Yes.
Exactly. And it really, it's and you see it all the time. People that work in systems transformation, there's like this whole big space where they're doing the inner work, like that's about you, right? So, and I think that is unfortunately the reality, is that it's so layered that, it takes time. Like it takes time for people to explode, how they're making sense of their world and like integrate or take on new ways of making sense of the world. And so, yeah, it's which is why, one of the things I found working on this piece, because we use lots of different techniques, right, to get to this point of developing the MEL 360, but you realize how relational the work is, right? So yes, there's a technical element, but actually a big part of the work is relational. It's all about building relationships, right? And that's not like,
Tetangata. Because you can have all the technical skills, but if you can't relate,
yeah,
nobody's going to pick up the brief and
exactly.
read it or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And the the communication piece, it's always been huge. Like I remember, doing programmatic evaluations, and one of the findings that would always turn up is the communications didn't work, internal or external or whatever it was. And it's the case here again. It's like, how do you communicate, right? Which is why we often, as evaluators, become documenters of what's actually happening. We're helping people to see the work of systems change, right? All of that stuff, right?
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's a real it's a direct relation, I'm thinking, almost to policy entrepreneurs and such. And like you see a slight policy window, and as you said, two steps forwards, one step back. Like here's a systems evaluation window, and we can do a bit. And then when the
Yeah.
window's closed, you're just advising, like, let's work on the comms, let's work on the evidence base, let's work on getting the systems and structures in place so that next time the window opens, we've got a
Yeah,
relationship and we
exactly.
can
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. And I do think that, so one of them, what for me, like kind of coming out of this Mel 360 journey, is that one of the things that we do through this work is there's two things. One, because the Mel 360 guidance, as I said, it does something quite specific, right? It helps to bring new people in. And basically what we're doing through all of those different tools is we're helping people take a systems view on their work. Like, how do you fit in the system? What's your relationship, right, to the bigger agenda that a number of groups are doing? We're never saying that you are going to transform the system, right? Unless you're already a pretty large collaboration. So I think that's one of the key things that we keep doing. It's still intervention centric, but it gives you a systems view and helps you to think about how you can get the most out of your intervention within a bigger, system ambition of systems transformation. But the other thing I think that we do, and that the MEL 360 helps to do as well, is I think as evaluators, what we can do is help to create patience in the system for systems change, right? Mm-hmm. So, and this is the bit where you have to be, as you said, on the front foot with thinking ahead of like, okay, what are people going to need to know? What do we need to show them? What do we need to, evidence in a way that might speak to them? Like, how do we help bridge, right, them into this space so they can see it? So I think that's a really interesting part of bridging and moving people more into this space is that work of creating, using our skills to create information, intelligence, evidence, whatever you want to call it, that helps to build patience so that people are happy to give it another 12, 24 months, 5 years, right? Because we know this takes time because it is relational.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And seeing that systems change time. Now, I'm aware that we only had a
Yeah.
certain, speaking of taking time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and time, here we go,
Yeah.
cruising to the end of our time. Just
Yeah.
wondering, I'm always curious about what's next on the horizon, right? So, like from Australia, looking over the edge, tell me what's coming up next, Zazie?
So with the Mel 360, so we've got a training series actually that's on at the moment, which we did the first session. Uh, Jesus, things all blend into one this week. And we've got 3 more sessions coming up. So I'll share those with you so that you can share those with the community. So people are welcome. It's all free. Welcome to join. And there are recordings if the time doesn't work for you. We're working on a phase 2. So if anyone is interested, please get in touch. And again, I'll share with you the emails if anyone does want to get in touch. And we're looking for technical partnerships, and we're also looking for funding partnerships. And this is the kind of work we always feel it's great to have more than one funder, right? Because it's about building
It's
something.
always good to have more than one funder. Risk management, diverse profile.
Yeah, and you need to have, as you were saying, like those conversations need to happen at every level, right? So that's what's coming up. So there will be a phase 2, and the key thing in phase 2 is we want to continue to build the Mel Sandbox community. So really, it's a space, right, for people that are working on the edges, that are doing the real practical stuff on the ground, to come and share that back in and do exactly what you were saying. Like, it's such a powerful thing that people are then picking things up and having a go with them, like the pivot metrics. And then, yeah, it's fantastic. And then we want to continue to grow the Mel 360, which is basically support implementation and adoption, right? And that is not like, follow the Bible at all, but like, help you to adapt it to your system. So with training and coaching and developing new tools and refining it and adding to it. You'll see on the Mel 360, there's a lot of resources and papers from other groups which are doing fantastic work, right? And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to leverage what people are already doing. So that's basically what's on happening with the Mel 360. So please get in touch.
Amazing. Yeah, careful. You're going to have heaps of Australians just like sending you mass emails. All right. We'll come back sometime again. It's lovely chatting with you. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to sit in a small revised prison cell and show us how we can bust out of the box a bit.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.